My name is Nate. If you are reading this because you saw a job listing for a motel that pays better than it should and comes with a free room, do yourself a favor and finish reading. Because I didn't have anyone to warn me, but you do. 4 years ago, I took the exact same job, overnight shift at an old motel off the highway, the kind of place people only pass through on their way to somewhere else. I took it because I was broke. I didn't mind being alone at night, and it came with a free room. I remember thinking I'd gotten lucky, but what I didn't think much about was the one strange thing the owner told me when he hired me. He said the last 3 night clerks had all quit, and not one of them walked out their notice. They just left. I asked him why. He said, ask Walt. Walt was the clerk who trained me. He'd worked that desk for almost 20 years, longer than anyone else had lasted by a mile, and he was finally retiring. He spent 1 week showing me the register, the keyboard, the phone system, and all of it was simple, all of it normal. Then, on my last night training with him, Walt reached under the desk and slid illuminated car across to me. 6 rows were rented on it and nothing else. I read them and I smiled, because I figured it was a joke they play on the new guy. Walt didn't smile. He folded his hands and looked at me. I worked this desk 20 years, son. You know how many times I got out on this job? 0. The 3 fellas before you didn't last 3 months between them. He tipped the card. You want to be like me, or you want to be like them? I asked him what happened to the 3 clerks who quit. Walt looked at me for a second, and then he looked out the office window at the dark parking lot, and he didn't answer. He just told me to keep the card tape under the desk where I could always reach it. I have worked the overnight shift 4 years now, and I'm going to tell you about the 6th night that taught me why every rule on Walt's card is there. Rule 1. Room 6 is not rented out. If someone asks for room 6 by name, tell them it's occupied. Walt showed me the keyboard for my first night, and I noticed right away there was no key for room 6. Every other room had a key on a labeled hook, except for room 6. It was empty. When I asked him, Walt just said, we don't rent room 6, rule 1. For the first few weeks it never came up. People want a room. You give them whatever is clean and available. Nobody asked for a specific number. Until one night, maybe a month in, a man walked up to the desk. He was looking normal and polite, and for the first thing out of his mouth was, I'd like room 6, please. Not a room, but room 6, by name. He said it like he'd stayed there before, like he knew it. I asked him what's actually in room 6. He said nothing. That's the whole point. It has to stay nothing. Somebody rents it, it's stopping nothing. I still don't fully understand what he meant. I have never opened that door, and I will never will. Rule 2. Between 3 and 4 in the morning, do not look at the security cameras. Turn them to face the wall. The front desk has a little bank of security monitors, parking lots, hallways, ice machine, the pool area that's been closed for years. During most of the night, you watch them out of boredom. Rule 2 says that for a specific hour, 3 to 4 in the morning, you turn them around. When I asked Walt why, he wouldn't explain it. He just said, there is 1 hour, you don't want to see what the camera sees. Turn them to the wall at 3, turn them back at 4. I followed it for a while without questioning it. Then one night, maybe 2 months in, curiosity got me. It was 3:20 in the morning, and I thought, what's the harm in one lock? I turned one monitor back around, the one covering the long exterior walkway past the rooms, and the walkway was full of people, standing in a row, all down the walkway, one in front of every door, facing the doors, not moving. Dozens of them where there should have been no one, all just standing at 3:20 in the morning, facing the rooms where my guests were sleeping. And the one nearest the camera, without turning around, slowly raised his one hand and pointed back over its shoulder, directly at the camera, directly at me. I turned that monitor back to the wall so fast I knocked it over. I did not turn it back until 4 a.m., exactly when I finally looked. The walkway was empty, just normal, quiet motel walkway. The next morning, I asked Walt again on the phone in a shaky voice what they were. He said, I don't know. And I made sure I never found out. That's why the rule is you don't look. You can't be seen looking. 4 years, I hope you remember that. I have never and will never look again. Rule 3. If the phone rings and there is no room number on the display, do not answer it. Every call to the desk shows what's calling, an outside line or a room number if it's a guest. Rule 3 is about the calls that shows nothing at all, blank display. The first blank call came around 2 in the morning one night. The phone rang. I glanced at the display out of habit, blank, no number, no outside line, and I remembered rule 3 and let it ring. It rang 11 times and stopped. A minute later, it rang again, a blank. I let it ring, it stopped. It rang for a third time, and this time when it stopped, the phone for room 11 lit up. A real guest, a real room number, so I answered that one. It was the woman staying in room 11, and she was whispering. She said, "There is a phone ringing in my room." But there's no phone in my room. It's coming from inside the wall, and it won't stop, and I think someone is going to answer it. I told her to come back to the front desk immediately, bring her stuff, leave the door open, and do not touch anything. She did. I moved her to a different room and sat her down with a coffee, but she was shaking. I never asked Walt about it, because Walt was already gone by then, but I moved that woman, and she checked out first light, and I was glad that her car pulled out of the lot. Some calls you just don't answer, and some calls you make very sure the guest doesn't answer either. Rule 4. The ice machine turns off at midnight. If you hear it running after midnight, unplug it and go back to the desk. The ice machine sits at the end of the walkway, and it's on a timer. Shuts off at midnight, comes back at 6 in the morning. Rule 4 seemed like most pointless on the card. An ice machine. Who cares about an ice machine? Then one night, around 1 in the morning, I heard it. That specific rumble and drop of ice machine cycling, running, making ice. At 1 in the morning, when it should have been off for 1 hour. And under the sound of the machine, there was another sound, a wet sound. Something being moved around inside it. I did not want to go out there. But rule 4 is specific. You unplug it and you come back. So I walked out to the end of the hallway and kept my eyes on the plug and only the plug. And I raised it down and pulled it. The machine died. The rumbling stopped. And in the sudden dead silence, from inside the machine, something shifted its weight. A heavy, settling, wet movement and went still. I did not open the machine. I did not lock in the pin. I walked back to the desk fast and I didn't run because I was afraid running would make something chase me. In the morning, the ice machine was in its timer like normal, plugged back in, though I never plugged it back in, and full of perfectly ordinary ice. I have never used ice from that machine, neither did Walt, in 20 years. Now, I know why he told me about that. Rule 5. If a guest comes to the desk and says the person in their room isn't the person they arrived with, give them a new room and do not ask questions. This rule that sounds the strangest until it happens to you, and then you are the one the most grateful for. About 2 years in, a man came to the desk near 3 in the morning. He was unsteady. He checked in earlier that evening with his wife. I remember them, an ordinary couple. He put his hands flat on the desk to stop them from shaking. Then he said, "The woman in my bed is not my wife." I remembered rule 5. I did not ask questions. I did not say, "Are you sure?" or "Did you have a bad dream?" or any kind of things. I just took the key of the boardroom and told him to go to the side of the building, and I gave to him. I told him to go straight to there, lock the door and not go back to the first room for anything. He went, and about 10 minutes later, the door to his original room opened. A woman walked out, his wife, or what had checked in looking like his wife. She walked across the lot, past the desk, and she stopped and looked at me through the glass for a moment. She was smiling, and the smile was too wide, and it didn't move or change the entire time she looked at me. Then she walked off into the dark past the edge of the lot, and she was gone. In the morning, the man's actual wife was asleep in the new room, completely herself. No memory of anything, confused about why they changed rooms. I told them the first room had a plumbing problem. They checked out. I watched them drive away, and I hoped whatever walked out of that first room had gone with the dark and not with them. At 4:44 in the morning, someone will knock at the office door from the inside of the supply closet. Do not open the closet until 5. This is the last rule, and is the one Walt spent the most time on. The office behind the front desk was a supply closet. Towels, cleaning stuff, the safe, just normal closet. Rule 6 says that exactly at 4:44 in the morning, something knocks on that closet from the inside, and you do not open it until 5. The first time I didn't believe it, right up until 4:44 in the morning, when 3 slow knocks came from the inside. A closet I had opened at the start of my shift that was empty and had no other way in or out. I looked at the clock. It was 4:44 in the morning, and the knocking came again, patient, 3 slow knocks, and then a voice, Walt's voice, the man who trained me, who had retired and moved states away, said through the closet, "Nate, it's Walt. I locked myself in here. Let me out, please, would you?" It sounded exactly like him, friendly, a little embarrassed, exactly the way Walt talked. And for a second, my hand actually moved toward the closet. Walt had warned me, but Walt himself told me about Rule 6. Walt had warned me about that thing in the closet uses a voice you trust. That it had used a voice on him for 20 years and he never once opened that door before 5. So I sat back down at the desk and I did not answer. And I did not open the closet. The voice kept on, friendly, then confused, then it stopped being friendly. And I won't repeat the things it said on Walt's voice that minute, but at 5 in the morning, exactly, it went silent. I waited another full hour before I opened the closet in daylight, and it was just a closet, towels, cleaning stuff, like normal closet. I called Walt that morning, the real Walt, on his cell, 2 states away, safe in his house. He answered on the second ring and he already knew I was calling. He said, "It used my voice, right?" But it wasn't a question. Use mine for 20 years too. Don't ever open that door before 5, no matter who it sounds like, especially not if it sounds like me. I have worked that overnight desk for 4 years now. Walt's card is still taped where he left it, and every night I read it once before the highway goes quiet, the way some people say a prayer. I still don't know what wants room 6. I don't know who stands in the hallway at 3 in the morning, or what lives in the ice machine, or what walks out of the guest room wearing their wife's faces. I don't know what's in the closet, or how it learned Walt's voice. What I do know is that Walt worked for that desk for 20 years and walked away without scratch, and he did it by following 6 rules, and now he's living somewhere quiet, retired, safe. So I follow them every night, and when the sun comes up over the hallway, the first guest starts stirring, and I'm still here, still fine. Because one day, I'm going to retire too, and when I do, I'm going to train some new kid on that register and that keyboard and that phone system. And on their last night, I'm going to slide a laminated card across the desk to them, and they are going to laugh and think it's a new joke. And I'm going to tell them what exactly Walt told me. If you made it this far, please consider to like and subscribe to support me, and tell me what story was your favorite.